Welcome back to Seng Tech Weekly. In today's explainer, we are unpacking a monumental transformation happening right now across the Seng Tech landscape. We're looking at how the entire Chinese tech, digital commerce, and electric vehicle sectors are undergoing this massive, systemic re-engineering. The era of unchecked volume growth and ruinous subsidy wars, that's officially ending. What's replacing it is a hyper-focus on margin protection, artificial intelligence, and structural unit economics.
Here's the roadmap for today. We've got 4 critical battlegrounds to cover: AI and silicon customization, gaming and social ecosystems, commerce and local services, and finally, the EV paradigm shift. Let's dive in.
Section 1. AI and Silicon, Customizing the Core.
So, let's look at what's happening right at the foundation. With U.S. export curbs in play, Chinese tech giants are essentially being forced to abandon generic GPUs for custom ASICs. And this perfectly illustrates how SMIC is aggressively consolidating its domestic foundry assets to hit the scale they absolutely need for national tech security. You can see SMIC North's revenue steadily climbing, which recently culminated in regulatory approval for SMIC to pursue a massive $6 billion acquisition of the remaining 49% stake in SMIC North. They are locking in the capacity required to build these custom architectures.
But hey, this pivot isn't just about the hardware, it's completely shifting the software goalposts too. Take Baidu's CEO, Robin Li. He recently said that daily active agents, or DAA, is the new defining metric. We are moving way past the first-generation parameter wars. Now it's all about agentic monetization, having AI act as your autonomous digital assistant that actually does the heavy lifting for you. Baidu is rolling out tools like their general-purpose agent DuMate and their coding agent MioDa to pivot straight toward this future.
There is, however, a painful reality check here: heavy margin pressure. Training and deploying these models isn't cheap. Baidu's Q1 net income basically halved year over year, down to 3.45 billion yuan. To project some confidence to the market amidst these soaring AI costs, Baidu's management made a point to highlight their growth drivers, and they completed a 172 million yuan share buyback. But the financial burden of this AI transition is undeniable.
Because developing these AI agents burns through cash so quickly, we're seeing private developers rapidly turning to public market financing just to stay in the race. Minimax is a great example. They're already eyeing an A-share IPO on the mainland right on the heels of their Hong Kong debut. It's setting up a fierce rivalry with peers like Zipu AI to secure the capital required to fund massive compute costs and global expansion.
All right, moving to Section 2, Gaming and Social Ecosystems, Agentic Monetization.
Let's break down the robust Q1 financials for the big players. Tencent, NetEase, and Kuaishou all posted really solid top-line growth. The key takeaway here is how they're driving that growth. Kuaishou's Kling AI generated over 650 million yuan on its own, and Tencent had the global launch of enterprise AI tools like WorkBuddy. They're proving that you can turn AI integration into real, tangible revenue streams. Now, what's genuinely fascinating is Tencent's potential to turn WeChat into a unified, AI-powered super app. They're currently testing a prototype AI agent directly inside WeChat. Think about that for a second. You combine an AI agent with 1.4 billion active users, mini-programs, and a built-in payment system, you're creating a direct pipeline for consumer monetization that could completely flip how users interact with the digital economy.
But man, when you look across the broader tech landscape, the contrast in how these companies deploy capital is wild. On one hand, you have Meituan practically setting money on fire. They burned 23 billion yuan in a single quarter on marketing and rider subsidies just to defend their local delivery market share. Contrast that with NetEase. They are sitting on a dragon's hoard of 167.5 billion yuan in cash, enjoying the incredible stability of evergreen, high-margin PC games like Fantasy Westward Journey. And that stark contrast leads us right into Section 3, Commerce and Local Services, Navigating Margin Pressures.
Taking a closer look at Meituan's Q1 expenses, you can really see the impact of this fierce competition. Their core local commerce segment actually swung to a 2 billion yuan loss this quarter. Look at that massive 25.2% slice of the pie going entirely to sales, marketing, and rider subsidies. It's a bruising reality. But wait. Check out the sequential recovery here. Meituan is actively pivoting away from those ruinous price wars. From a devastating 15.1 billion yuan loss in Q4 of 2025, they've narrowed that to, actually narrowed is an understatement. They slashed it to a 4.97 billion yuan loss in Q1. How? By deploying subsidies much more carefully and bringing in AI tools like their Smart Shopkeeper for restaurant merchants to drive operational efficiency rather than just competing on price alone.
Zooming out a bit, the broader hardware and commerce players are impartially navigating some intense international regulatory friction and rising component costs. Alibaba is ramping up a massive 380 billion yuan AI capex over the next 5 years, which definitely pressures their near-term profitability. JD.com is facing preliminary probes from the EU over potential foreign subsidies. And Xiaomi? They're battling surging global memory and chip costs that caused their Q1 net profit to drop by over 56%. Now, Xiaomi's response to that profit drop is honestly a masterclass in hedging. Instead of just racing to the bottom on price, they launched the premium Xiaomi 17T and 17T Pro globally. By using advanced merchant silicon, specifically MediaTek's 3nm chips, and partnering with Leica for high-end optics, they're justifying a premium price tag to protect their hardware margins against these supply chain shocks.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 4, EVs and Smart Hardware, the Paradigm Shift.
Let's look at the EV deliveries for May. The market is definitely fighting through an off-season transition. While Li Auto and XPeng navigated slight year-over-year dips, BYD finally ended an 8-month streak of year-over-year declines, posting over 383,000 deliveries. And Xiaomi is proving resilient too, clearing 30,000 units for the month.
But you've got to split BYD's numbers apart to see the real story. What is staggering here is that domestic sales actually dropped 24%, but that dip was completely offset by an explosive 80.4% surge in overseas shipments. They pushed past 160,000 units internationally in just a single month.
Now, before you think that domestic drop is just weak demand, there's a catch. It's the result of a painful but necessary technological transition. BYD is currently overhauling the production lines to manufacture their new second-generation Blade battery, which brings advanced flash charging tech to the table. Retooling the factories has temporarily constrained their capacity, sure, but it's a structural upgrade that's absolutely necessary for their next phase of growth.
Over at XPeng, they're dodging the EV price wars by aggressively doubling down on tech and hitting massive milestones. They just launched the GX-UV and secured over 24,000 orders in the first 12 hours. Even more importantly, late May saw the rollout of their factory-installed Level 4 robotaxi prototype. That means autonomous driving requiring zero human intervention, powered entirely by 4 in-house AI chips. They are making autonomous tech their core differentiation.
And this brings us full circle, right back to where we started. Can domestic foundries actually scale fast enough to support the EV sector's self-driving ambitions? Remember CIMIC from our first segment? Because their advanced 7nm capacity is largely locked up by smartphone giants like Huawei, EV makers like BYD are reportedly in talks with global foundries like Samsung to secure the sub-5nm chips they need for advanced autonomous driving. It's all connected. So, pulling all of this together, the big takeaway from this week's earnings and strategic moves is pretty clear. The Chinese tech and EV ecosystem is shedding the old subsidy models. Companies aren't willing to burn cash just for pure volume anymore. Instead, they are focusing on structural unit economics, using AI to drive internal efficiency, and redesigning their supply chains for long-term resilience. It is literally a high-stakes race of capital, custom silicon, and artificial intelligence. The players who can successfully monetize these intelligent ecosystems aren't just going to win locally, they are going to completely rewrite the global tech hierarchy. Who do you think crosses the finish line first? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer on Hang Seng Tech Weekly. See you next time.